shone for others to see you in us. May you be with our leaders, our country, and our armed forces, as your protection surround us. We give thanks and glorify you. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wendy, I'm going to go ahead and make the changes to the agenda now. I apologize, Mayor. We got a couple of changes we need to make to the agenda. Resolution 848825, and correct me on this, Councilman McClinton, that will be continued to the July 14th meeting.
Correct.
Okay, any council folks have any changes to the agenda? Other than that? All right, I want to just actually do a little bit different since we have modified it. Let's do a roll call vote to adopt the new agenda with that change made.
Motion to approve the new agenda.
Take a second.
Second.
Councilor Driver,
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks,
Aye.
Councilor McClinton,
Aye.
Councilor Murphy.
Aye. Last thing I'll say, may add 5 minutes to this, just as a FYI, if council members don't vote on something or silent, that's considered a yes or aye. If you made a motion to nay in that, it cannot be changed after the fact at the end of the meeting. So make sure that our city clerk acknowledges everyone aye and nay. We'll do roll call votes on all the items on our agenda to make sure everyone is clear on who voted for what. That being said, Mr. Mayor, proclamations.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to invite Miss Anna Clare Huddleston, Miss Mallie Kate Perry, and Miss Victoria Powell. Would they all come up? And we have a resolution this evening recognizing these young ladies, a proclamation, not a resolution, but a proclamation. And so I would ask.
This is a proclamation to honor and congratulate Mallie Kate Perry, Victoria Powell, and Anna Clare Huddleston, residents of Hoover, upon being crowned 2025 Miss Yellowhammer Teen Volunteers. Whereas it is fitting that the members of this city pay tribute to those citizens who bring service and purpose to their endeavors. And whereas the Miss Alabama Volunteer Organization's principles are represented as 5 points of the crown. Together, the first letter of each of those 5 principles spells serve and stand for service, education, responsibility, volunteerism, and empowerment. And whereas a young lady of purpose and commitment, Mallie Kate embodies the Miss Alabama Volunteer Organization's mission of service by volunteering with the student government at Bumpus Middle School, creating the CARE project to generate awareness and provide resources and education for people with celiac disease as her SERVE initiative. And whereas Mallie Kate will proudly represent the state of Alabama at the Miss Alabama Volunteer State Pageant in Oxford, Alabama in July 2025. And whereas a young lady with a community-oriented heart, Victoria, embodies the Miss Alabama Volunteer Organization's mission of services by volunteering with the CARE project to generate awareness and provide resources and education for people with celiac disease and is active in her school and church. And whereas Victoria will represent the state of Alabama as the Miss Alabama Volunteer State Pageant in Oxford, Alabama in June 2025. And whereas Anna Clare Huddleston is another young lady with a community-oriented heart and embodies the Miss Alabama Volunteer Organization's mission of service by volunteering with the CARE project to generate awareness and provide resources and education for people with celiac disease. and participates in community activities that empower young girls, such as youth cheerleading and her school show choir. And whereas Anna Claire will proudly represent the state of Alabama at the Miss Alabama Volunteer State Pageant in Oxford, Alabama in July 2025. Now therefore, we, Frank B. Burcato, Mayor, and John B. Lyda, City Council President, and on behalf of the residents of the City of Hoover and the Hoover City Council, do hereby present this proclamation to Miss Mallie Kate Perry, Victoria Powell, and Anna Claire Huddleston upon serving as 2025 Miss Yellowhammer Teen Volunteers, and commend them for their dedication to the people of the state of Alabama and wish them every success in all their future endeavors.
Congratulations.
So my name is Mallie Kate Perry, the Miss Yellowhammer Teen 2025, and I'm going to keep it short, and all I want to say is thank you. Me and my princesses were very honored for this award.
All right. Mayor, so no guest recognitions or employee recognitions, I'm assuming. So none. So that's a no. Okay, all right. We do have a report, preliminary financial statements, 6-month ending, FY 2025, from our CFO.
Thank you. Yes, I have 2 reports tonight. The first of which is a preliminary report for the current year for the first 6 months. I'll wait to get that one pulled up. And council, these are the large pages that I provided to you that are easier to read than these small slides. Okay, so for the first 6 months, revenue, wanted to kind of talk about those. I have been reporting every month on revenues. Now, this report is just actual revenues through the first 6 periods. So that would be from October 1 to March 31st. And as you'll notice, we've got $86 million, a little over $86 million in revenue that's been collected in those 6 months. That represents almost 61% of the total budgeted revenues for the year, the tax revenues for the year. And if you go down to the very bottom of the revenue statement that shows the grand total of all the revenues that have been collected through the first 6 months, $104 million, that number represents a little over 61%. So our revenues are trending to be, this would be 50% through the year, so it's good to see that our revenues are trending more than 50% at this point. So also on this statement, I want to point out that we've got our different buckets or funds that we like to report on. So the first column is the general fund, which is where most of our operating expenses come out of. The next grouping is for our special revenues. Those are the revenues that come in that are earmarked for particular purposes. We call them restricted funds. And so what you see is that all the revenues for the special revenues are budgeted under intergovernmental because that's where they come from. We don't have other tax revenues necessarily that come into the special revenues, but they're rather intergovernmental support. As we look at the actuals for our special revenues, we have a $4.2 million, which is 48% of what's budgeted for those funds. Not all of the special revenues come in an even and steady stream throughout the year, so some come in lump sums, so that's not particularly alarming. With our capital projects, we have some contributions, and then of course with our bond funds, that's the borrowing that we had in 2023. the only item of revenue relates to the accrued interest on the investments that we're holding until those expenditures are made. On the next page, just to put into proportion, what is the relative proportion of the tax revenues, right? So the tax revenues were $86 million. And for the first 6 months, our sales and use taxes accounted for 67% of our total tax revenue. Again, these percentages can be a little bit misleading because unlike our property tax that we have, property tax comes in and mostly over a few months, right? Where our sales tax revenues come in every month. So I'm still expecting our tax revenues, our sales and use taxes to approximate 75 to 80% of our total taxes like they were last year. But this gives a nice proportion to see the proportion of those tax revenues. Now, on the next slide, when we look at our total revenues, just our tax revenue accounts for 82% of the revenues that we have posted so far. So again, this is 82% of the $104.7 million in revenues that have already been accounted for the first 6 months. On the next slide, we have our revenues, our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And this is one that I'm really excited to be able to report on. It is something that we always want to make sure we have all of our numbers in, that we've recorded all of our transactions, that our reconciliations are up to date, so that we can be providing reliable numbers to you for decision making. So again, this is a pretty important and weighty report. But again, you see the revenue, so there's $104.7 million of revenue that we've already talked about. Under expenditures, expenditures for the first 6 months totaled $77.8 million. That is right now roughly 47% of what's been budgeted in expenditures for the year. We have transfers in and transfers out that have happened between these funds that are on this page. And then also at the very bottom under special items, the revenue rebates, you see our actual revenue rebates paid to date are only $285,000, but most of our revenue rebates are paid on an annual basis, and a lot of them happen at the end of September for the whole year, right? So that will definitely affect a change. So as we're looking at the excess of $26 million, that looks like a really big number, kind of in the middle of the page, the excess of revenues over expenditures. I do expect, and this is just because of the lumpy way in which our revenues come in, that we don't have the same amount of revenues that get collected every month during the year. So our revenues are 61% of the budget, right? And then our expenses are 47% of the budget. We're going to see more expenditures, obviously, for the next 6 months. And so I do expect that excess to get whittled away quite a bit, so don't get too excited and want to spend all that money. But at this point in time, a net change in fund balance, positive change of fund balance of $24 million would put our ending fund balance, would bring it from roughly $80 million to $104 million in the general fund. Talking about special revenues, again, we've got these 4 buckets that go across the page, and these are distinctly different funds. Those special revenues, we remember, are the restricted funds that come in for particular purposes. So you can see that we brought in $4.2 million and have spent almost $5.9 million. And again, that has to do with residual amounts left over from the prior year and those special revenues that can be spent, as well as just a not so even stream of special revenues coming in every month. So if you look down to the bottom, we still see that we have a net change in fund balance for the special revenues that is $765,000. And so our projected fund balance for special revenues at this point in the year would be around $18 million. Capital projects, the next grouping there is where we set aside funds for important projects throughout the city. So we remember that there are, we make transfers from the general fund to cover these projects. So we don't normally expect to see a lot of revenue in the capital projects fund for that reason, right? Because we're funding those projects usually with excess from the general fund. So our capital projects is spending down those committed dollars, roughly $7.4 million, bringing our beginning fund balance in special projects from 55 million down to 48. And that is the normal way things should happen if we're setting aside money ahead of time and then we're spending it according to the purposes and intentions that council had identified. Last but not least, our 2023 bond issue. This is actually, it's a capital improvement fund, but we labeled it the General Obligation Warrant 2023, so we would remember these are bond funds that we're talking about. Remember, our revenue was related to the investment gains that we've had while we're waiting to spend that money. And then you can see the expenditures that we have had to date related to those bond funds. And our fund balance at the end of the year is pretty stable there. Okay, and I think that's it. Questions about the current year progress report before I move on to the revenues?
I have one question.
Yes.
Under capital, is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Under capital projects, maybe since this is ending in March, I don't remember when we passed this, but we had discussed having a specified performing arts center
Yes.
designation.
Yes, and I believe that happened after March, right? So we just tried to be real restrictive there and it only include, and I can't remember the date that we did that.
That would start?
I can't remember what that was, but we will definitely make sure that it is in there. Okay, and you can see, right, the performing arts money that was originally budgeted in the 2023 bond issue, it's still showing up in March, so that's going to move over, right, to the capital projects fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a question.
Yep.
You mentioned the SSUT tax. Is that higher or lower, about the same it was this time last year?
Okay, so that's in my next report. So you're
Oh,
stealing my
okay.
thunder, but we can talk. I don't have that for the first 6 months, but I do have it more up to date for the first 8 months.
Okay, before you start that, where is the, I guess, lodging tax and bed fee in this spreadsheet?
So the lodging tax would be in the other municipal taxes grouped into this, but I do have it broken down on the revenue report that I'm going to give you. I have that. Now, I don't have it broken out by bed fee for the current year, but we can get that for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So on the next report, there's no more questions. Let's talk about our revenue trends. This report is intended to kind of just go over the major revenue sources of the city, and this is good through the month of May, right? So on the very first page, you'll see this busy schedule that kind of shows for the last 3 years the different buckets of revenues, the top 10, I believe it's top 10 revenues that we have here. For the month of May, that puts us 8 out of 12 months for the period. So it's roughly a little under 67% of the year that has happened. As we're looking at these major revenues and just drawing your attention down to the bottom where the 2025 numbers are shown, we have as a percentage of budget, right, we'd be looking for those categories that are trending below the 8 out of 12 months or the 67%. So we have two categories, one that's really almost there, and that is the rental tax. I expect next month, after we have the May receipts in for SEC, we might see a little bit of a correction there. But the lodging tax that you just mentioned, Councilor Middlebrooks or McClinton, that is kind of trending, and this happened last month too, right? It was not trending to be quite what you would expect. So for 2025, we have $2,020,123 in lodging taxes. As we look at the comparison to the prior year, just for lodging, we're down 0.39%. So I would call that stable, but I would like to see it better than that. The rest of our categories, though, seem to be in line. And I know Councilor Middlebrooks had asked before about the grocery tax and where that lines up on the sheet. So we don't parse that out of sales and use, but I can tell you that year to date, the grocery tax that's been collected is almost $10.4 million of the total 71 that we've collected. And so I thought that might be helpful in looking at just those major revenues. Now, when we look at the next slide and start to look at these month-on-month comparisons, a lot of our categories, we're seeing a healthy this May, better than last May kind of trend. So when we look at sales and use, the sales and use excluding SSUT, compared to last May, we're up 10.8%. When we look on the next slide at SSUT, month-over-month comparison, went up from last May of 632,000 to this May of 728. That's a 15.2% increase over May of last year. The next few slides, we have featured some of our taxes that do not come in a smooth manner. So a lot of times the month-to-month comparisons, we know that real property gets a lot of those collections come in December, January, February, and then the rest of them kind of trickle in. Same would be true with our licenses and permits, which are next, January and February. We're still seeing some good.
Jennifer,
Yes.
one second. Go back to that slide. What was the
Previous one?
the variance in March in 2023 March compared to the other years?
Which one? Did you want to look at SSUT?
No, right here in March.
Okay,
March of 2023
yeah.
had a different variance.
Yep, with the real property tax trends, it just looks like some collections came in a little bit later that year. If you look across, look at 2024, January and February, how much those were much heavier than the previous year. It looks like we just had some late payers there in March, or we got late credit for them. Sometimes that happens too in 2023. If we want to go back to the total, though, for the year, that might be helpful on that very first page with our real property. When we look at the total property tax for 2023, we took in $13,419,000, and then in 2024, $14,877,000. So you tend to have, because of the assessments going up, you tend to have that just a little bit of a bump. I think it's just the timing difference of when those payments came in.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so going back to the real property and then license, that's another one. Of course, that is a downturn. The license and permits, sorry, that is an increase of 19%. I can read the bar. On the gross receipts and franchise tax, those are, generally collected in January and February as well. The month-to-month comparison shows a decline, but we are 2.9% over the same period of 8 months over last year. As we look at the next series of graphs, this is where you can really see the year-on-year comparisons for the same period. This was particularly encouraging to me to see that the 2025, for the first 8 months, sales and use tax had trended up by 3.87%. That was a little bit more than what we have been seeing earlier in the year. We were looking at 1 to 2%, and it just seemed like we had a little bump up in these later months that has improved that. With SSUT, we've had a bump as well. If just for the cumulative, on the next slide, the cumulative amount for the first 8 months, 5 million to 5.7 million, that's a 12.8% increase. When you put these two together, I know we like to show them apart because they behave a little bit differently. But when we put these two numbers together, an overall increase of 4.48% in sales and use tax, including SSUT. So that was encouraging to me. On the next slide, for real property, for the same period, again, we've increased 3.28%. And then license and permits, that's relatively flat, not a whole lot of change, less than $100,000 of change from the same period last year. One of the things that I will say about this is the second reminder notice for renewals went out in April, at the end of April. And so I think that probably accounts for some of the May collections that we had. We have the third reminder for folks who still have not paid, planned for July. So I'm hoping that in the next month, we'll see some more of these revenues trickle in from that. Last but not least, our gross receipts and franchise tax numbers. That's up almost 3%. And this category is actually at 102.5% of our whole annual budget. So the way I look at that is anything extra that we collect for the next 4 months is kind of gravy. Makes me happy. And that's it.
Any additional questions from the council?
2 comments. First, I want to thank you for including the expenditures on the interim financial statements. And also, could these 2 reports be made public on the website?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wendy, let me know if I need to give any additional stuff or to get that on the website. Okay? Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And one more question. When do you expect, I guess, to get economic impact from the SEC?
Well, I would hope that much of it would be on the July report for June collections, I'm thinking. Because remember, in June, you're collecting, those are the tax collections related to May activity. With the exception of SSUT. We're always a month behind with all these categories except for SSUT, which is a 2-month lag.
Okay. Is there a way to find out if the hotels, if they had a better year than the year before? Did they give that kind of information to you or what?
We don't have not that I know of. I can check with Ken Davidson and get back with you on that. I'm not sure that there's I think we would see it when the tax revenue comes in. I don't know that there's an informal, feedback loop on that.
Thank you.
Any additional questions from the council? Thank you so much, Jennifer. I know council did ask you to do a comparable of the years based upon each cost center. And this is helpful. We can only improve as each year goes on.
Well,
so
a lot of credit goes to the team and the finance department.
Perfect.
So,
thank you so much.
thank you.
All right. We'll go to the regular agenda now. Payment of bills.
Motion to approve payment of bills.
Take the second. Can I second it all or no?
Oh, second.
All right. Any comments by the council? What about the public? Come on. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, if you don't mind. And again, look, everyone, just state your name and the area you're from. You don't have to give your exact address location because this is public. I want people showing up to your home.
Thank you. I'm Paul Hamrick, Meadowbrook. I've had raised some issues about the lack of detail on payment of bills, but I don't really want to talk about that tonight because I've got to say, wow, it's amazing the difference a presiding officer makes. There's really a nice environment in here tonight. Thank you. Actually, all 4 of you. It doesn't feel like anything crazy is going to happen. And it's nice. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. That being said, got one more? Come on.
Ken King, Rossbridge Parkway. Just thinking about what Mr. Hamrick said about payment of bills being murky sometimes. I get it's not always feasible to go through every single one, but I know what you do try to make sure you guys are intentional about is being transparent and being open about most of the things. One of the issues that I noticed going through it's campaign election year, and I know everyone's running for office and campaign contributions are flowing left and right, and it gets a little bit murky sometimes. One of the things that I noticed last week was actually, for the most part, everyone on the dais that I know that I've talked with, I've watched over the last few years, how you guys, if there's an issue that comes up and you have a conflict, more often than not, almost 100% of the time, I've watched you guys abstain, which I think is the right thing to do to avoid the very appearance of any type of shady backdoor deal, impropriety. My question, though, is what happens when the mayor's office submits something as part of the payment of bills or a proposal or a request, and you don't have knowledge, information that he's taking campaign contributions from said contractor, right? So you get a request, for example, the addition to the Hoover Met, the $100,000, you guys got that agreement, you got that request last month, say, hey, listen, we need $100,000, let's give Mr. Schaefer another $100,000. Did you know that Mr. Schaefer had written the mayor a $5,000 check maybe a month before? And if you knew that, that's great. I just want to know, generally speaking, do you guys know when the mayor gets money from a campaign contribution before he comes to you and says, I need you to approve this work? Generally speaking, does that happen?
Let me ask, can I answer it this way, if you don't mind? So I'll answer it generally. So two different things, and I'll separate the two. Any bidded requirement items that require Alabama State bid law have to go through those procedures. You can't get away from around that. So if it's a public works above $100,000, you have to bid those, advertise whoever is the lowest responsive bidder wins said work, right? And then some other stipulations that occur from there. That if it's one bidder, you can reject and negotiate. On professional services, as long as these groups are either licensed and or have the proper credentialing, these topics are not allowed to be based upon the dollar. It has to be qualified base. You cannot hire somebody based upon their dollar. So from a strictly business standpoint, I haven't seen any company in my tenure that have come before this council that has not been a person that was either not bidded and or there was a qualified person to do said work. So that's one.
Yeah.
Now, as far as campaign contributions, law allows anyone to support a campaign if they believe the individual details good government.
Okay.
So I'll just land on that piece of it. Any personal type things outside of that, I'll be more so get into, my opinion, character based.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be accuser.
Right. No, listen.
But I just want to just, did that kind of give a little overview? Probably didn't answer your questions about, I just only speak for, myself and just the normal business practice.
And I appreciate that. I guess where I'm going with this is if you guys have to recuse yourself or make the conscious decision to recuse yourself or not vote on certain issues because of the very appearance of a conflict, then I certainly respect that. I just want to know if you guys have any type of, unspoken rule or request of the mayor's office that when he has money coming to his campaign coffers, can you guys get any type of visibility on it prior to voting for it? Because I can tell you, I haven't gone through and looked at all the campaign contributions that Mayor Bricado's received in the last 6 months, but I will tell you 30 days from receiving $5,000 from someone and then granting them work for $100,000 just seems a bit sus, like the young folks say. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out if you guys have any standard, any process where you guys at least request some level of transparency when he's pushing, promoting, encouraging contracts be given out to certain folks.
So again, I'll say it this way, no. But again, for me, being an engineer as well too, I want to be careful with the companies as well, because, what you can make the statement is that they are doing something for pay. And and I don't want to do that piece,
No.
but to answer your initial question, no, we
yeah.
don't. Now, a lot of these companies I've seen, again, perform work for a lot of city governments. They're using pretty much some of the same engineering firms, whether it's water or structural. Some of the same road builders are the same individuals, roof builders, the same individual. But to answer your question, we don't ask that of the particular mayor piece of it, but the council itself, if it's a company we actually work for, I've seen that we have done it on that particular
Would you
company.
find it appropriate to take a $5,000 contribution from a donor and then 30 days later approve a $100,000 contract for that same donor? Would you find that personally appropriate?
Again, Ken, I want to be real clear because I don't want to, in any formal way, paint a bad picture about these companies, right? Because these same companies do give a lot of funding to local, state, national, federal companies. I don't want to do that.
Respect.
I would say that, again, the competitive bid law still allows you to go through a process. You can't avoid that process. You have to be a qualified person rendering professional services to even do said work. And if you have shown that you have done work for the government or water system or electrical system, your resume speaks for that. So I don't speak for the rest of the council, but I'll speak for it in general. When I look at any information coming for me, it's based upon your qualifications and then can you perform said work. And a lot of these folks have been doing work for us with previous mayors and 10 years back and things of that nature. So I'll just, man on that piece.
I get it. I appreciate it. Timing, the appearance of
Yeah.
impropriety, it doesn't always mean anything. And that's why I said I will make sure that I go back and
Yes,
look at, the coincidence of
Right.
campaign contributions versus contracts that the council has been asked to approve. So
Right.
I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
you for consideration.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Can I get a roll call vote? What now? Yeah, it's already been first and second.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. All right. Next one is the minutes for June 5th and the 9th.
Motion to approve the minutes of June 5th and June 9th without reading.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Any questions for the public? No questions. We'll call roll call vote.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. All right. Next one, the resolution 8480, well, that's been, no, that's fine. 848625.
This resolution appoints the city clerk to perform all duties of the mayor pertaining to the August 26, 2025 municipal election, and if necessary, the September 23rd, 2025 municipal runoff election as required by the Code of Alabama.
Motion to approve resolution number 8486-25.
Second.
All right. Been properly motioned and second. Comments from the council? Comments from the public? All right, no comments. Roll call vote.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. All right, this motion has been passed. Resolution 848725.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Rocato to execute a municipal election services agreement with the Jefferson County Commission for the municipal election on August 26, 2025, and the runoff election on September 23rd, 2025, if necessary.
Motion to approve resolution number 8487-25.
Second.
All right, properly motion is second. Any questions from the council? What about the public? No comments. Roll call vote.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. Pass. 8488, resolution 848825. That
That
has
was taken
been
new.
removed from the agenda. We
Correct.
acknowledge that by changing it, so we don't have to go through that. Next item, Resolution 849025.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Bocato to execute an agreement with Travelers Casualty and Surety Company of America for the City of Hoover crime insurance policy.
Motion to approve resolution number 8490-25.
Second.
All right.
Good evening.
Your stage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, I'm seeking to renew 4 insurance policies for the city, which are all set to expire July 1st. With the assistance of my insurance consultant, Mr. Brittle, who's here with me tonight, we have obtained quotes, and they're presented in your packet. All of these renewals are budgeted risk management items, and they are within our budget. The first one is the renewal for our crime insurance policy. That's with Travelers. This policy affords protection against employee theft, credit card forgery, and counterfeit charges. It also provides the $2.5 million insurance coverage for the E911 Communications District, which you are members of. This premium has a slight increase of $829, but the rate is locked for a 3-year term. And tonight, I'm seeking permission to bind that insurance coverage. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions from the council? All right. Just one question. What challenges are you seeing, especially from cities, regarding theft and things of that nature? Because at one point, there was some challenges with folks falsifying information, saying they should pull Social Security and they were still working, and no, were not working at that current location, or workman comp. So there's a lot of things that are going on. What things that you see that cities face, or trends that you're seeing?
As far as crime, we're not seeing any claims or threats with regards to that. Initially, we did buy this policy because it was a state requirement when the city established our E911 Communications District, but it just so happens that it also provides this other coverage, which is a great safety net for the city. So we're not seeing any exposures or having any issues with that. So we're pleased with this coverage.
Okay, perfect. Any questions from the public? No questions. Roll call vote.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. Resolution has passed. Resolution 849125.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Bocato to execute an agreement with Travelers Casualty and Surety Company of America for the Hoover cyber liability insurance.
Motion to approve resolution number 8491-25.
Second.
All right. Motion and proper second. Go ahead and go.
This is a renewal of our cyber liability policy. You may remember last year we expanded our coverage, and we're happy with the coverage this new expanded policy has. It does provide extortion protection, like for a ransomware attack that may come against the city, and it also has privacy breach notification costs built in. This increase is $391 for the year, so a minimal increase.
Also, any questions for the council? What about the public? No questions. Roll call vote.
Councilor Driver?
Aye.
Councilor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Councilor McClinton?
Aye.
Councilor Murphy?
Aye. Motion passes. Resolution 849225.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Bocato to execute a renewal agreement with Global Aerospace, Inc. for the unmanned aircraft insurance policy for the city of Hoover.
Motion to approve resolution number 8492-25.
Second.
All right. Motion properly approved and second. Is your show?
Yes, this is for Global Aerospace for all of our police drones. We have 23 police drones and 3 cameras. This premium actually came in lower this year, so we have a savings of over $5,217. And so we did acquire 2 new drones this year, but we're happy with the coverage that it provides for our police department.
All right. All right. Any comments from the council? What about the audience? No comments, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye. All right. Resolution has been passed. Resolution 849325.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Brocato to renew the city's insurance with Alliant Insurance Services, Inc. for the City of Hoover, Alabama property insurance coverage.
Motion to approve resolution number 8493-25.
Second.
All right, resolution has been motioned and properly second.
This final item is for our property insurance coverage with Alliant Insurance Services. And it does provide property insurance for our buildings, contents, high-value vehicles. It also has boiler and machinery and pollution coverage in there. Again, I'm happy to report that it came in under budget with a savings of $14,977 this year. And our team with Mr. Brittle did an outstanding job looking at some options, and we recommend renewing this coverage. We think it's a great buy for the city.
All right, awesome. Any questions from the council? What about the public? No questions. Roll call.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye. Resolution has been approved. Resolution 849425.
This resolution formally accepts the donation and transfer of equipment from the Alabama Mutual Aid System for the benefit and use of the City of Hoover Fire Department. The resolution further authorizes Mayor Brocato and Chief Bentley to take all necessary actions to accept and administer the use of this equipment in compliance with the terms set by the Alabama Mutual Aid System.
Motion to approve resolution number 8494-25.
Second.
All right, resolution has been motioned and properly second. Jennifer.
I'm here on Chief Bentley's behalf to talk about this. The Alabama Mutual Aid System includes 52 teams from across the state that are organized in 7 regions. And this system is in place to ensure that trained and equipped members are ready to provide emergency services during major disasters. So we received a Polaris Ranger, which is a 4-person side-by-side all-terrain vehicle from AMAS funding, and this resolution is to request that we accept the AB.
All right. Any questions from the council? Public? No questions. Roll call vote.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye. Resolution has been passed. Resolution 849525.
This resolution accepts a contribution from the Jefferson County Community Service Fund presented by Alabama State Representative Lee Halsey in the total amount of $9,896 to be used in the purchase of training equipment for the Hoover Fire Department. This resolution further amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 25th, 2025, as shown in the Exhibit A to this resolution.
Motion to approve resolution number 8495-25.
Second.
All right, and motion
Yes.
probably second.
So this is a request to accept the funds that were presented at the last council meeting to the fire department. And this is for equipment at Fire Station 6, I believe, some hoses that need to be replaced.
All righty. Any
So
questions
it's-
for the council?
It's a request to accept the money and then also amend the budget so the money can be spent.
Perfect. No questions for the council. Public? All right, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye, resolution has been passed. Resolution 849625.
This resolution accepts a contribution from the Jefferson County Community Service Fund presented by Alabama State Representative Lee Halsey in the total amount of $9,348 to be used in the purchase of AEDs for the Hoover Police Department. This resolution further amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025, as shown in Exhibit A to the resolution.
Motion to approve resolution number 8496-25.
Second.
Resolution has been motioned and properly second.
Good evening, council. This is to purchase 5 AEDs from Go Rescue. Senator Halsey was gracious enough to award us a community grant to use to purchase these. I think we've already accepted the grant a couple of weeks ago, and now this is just the follow-on to make the purchase.
Perfect. Any comments or questions for the council? Public? No questions. Roll call vote.
Counselor Driver?
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks.
Aye.
Counselor McClinton.
Aye.
Counselor Murphy.
Aye. Resolution has been passed. Resolution 8725.
This resolution accepts a contribution from the Alabama Department of Tourism via Alabama State Representatives Mike Shaw and Lee Halsey in the total amount of $5,200 to be used to offset the cost of the World Police and Fire Games. This resolution further amends the budget for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2025, as shown in Exhibit A to the resolution, and authorizes the CFO to execute a letter of understanding for the same.
Motion to approve resolution number 8497-25.
Second.
Resolution has been motioned and properly second.
Yeah, this will help offset costs that the city is incurring on behalf of the World Police and Fire Games. A lot of the games are happening in our city, and we're very proud of that. Most of them are at the Hoover Met Complex. There are some out at Veterans Park as well, but this will offset cleaning costs, rental supplies, that sort of thing.
All right, any questions for the council? Public? All right, no questions. Roll call vote.
Counselor Driver.
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks.
Aye.
Counselor McClinton.
Aye.
Counselor Murphy.
Aye. The next four are nuisance claims, 14, 15, 16, and 17. I wish we can read those all together, but I'm assuming we cannot.
We need to take them separately. The first,
16 and 17 are not.
80 and-
16 is not?
Correct.
Okay, well, it's still the same thing.
Resolution 849825 authorizes abatement of weed and other vegetation nuisance at 1301 Daria Street, Hoover, Alabama.
Motion to approve resolution number 8498-25.
Second.
Been motioned and properly second. Matt.
Good evening. As you can see on the overhead, this is the conditions on the site as of today, and it is in need of nuisance declaration.
All right, any questions for the council? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, no questions, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver.
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks.
Aye.
Counselor McClinton.
Aye.
Counselor Murphy.
Aye. Resolution 849925.
This resolution authorizes the abatement of weed and other vegetation nuisance at 3460 Sheila Drive, Hoover, Alabama.
Motion to approve resolution number 8499-25.
Second.
Resolution has been motioned and properly second. Matt.
Yes, sir. As of today, as seen in the picture overhead, the conditions on the site are still out of conformity with our ordinance.
All right, any questions for the council? Any questions or comments from the public? If no questions, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver.
Aye.
Counselor Middlebrooks.
Aye.
Counselor McClinton.
Aye.
Counselor Murphy.
Aye. Has been passed, resolution 847325.
This resolution approves and assents to a declaration of a vacation of an easement located on the property at 8069 Castle Hill Road, Hoover, Alabama.
Motion to approve resolution number 8473-25.
Resolution has been motioned, I'm sorry. A second? All right, and properly second. Mac.
Yes, sir. This is an approximately 10-foot wide easement located on Lot 57 on the Castle Hill Road vicinity of Greystone. This particular easement was to be utilized for sanitary sewer services. Sanitary sewer line has been abandoned at this location. We have utility letters from all of the utilities present in that vicinity saying that they have no interest in the easement, and therefore it's coming to you for abandonment as well, or vacation. The plat showing the vacation has been approved by the Planning Commission.
All right, any questions or comments from the council? Any for the public? No questions, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver.
Abstain.
Counselor Middlebrooks.
Aye.
Counselor McClinton.
Aye.
Counselor Murphy.
Aye. Resolution has been passed. Resolution 8525.
This resolution approves and assents to a declaration of vacation of a sewer easement located on the property at 732 Mill Springs Lane, Hoover, Alabama.
Motion to approve resolution number 8500-25.
Second.
Resolution has been motioned and properly second. Mac.
Yes, sir. The sewer easement at this location on lots 14 and 15 of the Mill Springs subdivision is actually shifting the easement that runs along the city of Hoover's sanitary sewer line, shifting it to the south approximately 7.5 to 9 feet. So the portion of the easement to the north of the proposed new easement is what is the subject of the vacation this evening. This plat showing the shifting of the sanitary sewer easement has been approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and City of Hoover staff has no issues with it and recommend its approval.
Couple things. Wendy and legal, I looked at 17 and definitely abstained because although is doing business, but being a utility, I'm definitely going to abstain from that one. Didn't see it quite on 16, but is a water letter was sent as well too. I either need to abstain by note, or do we need to revisit 16 so I can restate my abstention?
Well, you can state your abstention if these votes would require a majority of those present. So if it would take 3 votes to pass each of these. So if we have
Well, less than that.
2 members
All
abstaining.
right. So let me kind of go on record. Technically, I don't have to abstain from any utility-related work. I even got an opinion from that because that is not my company and it's public to public. I just have made a practice to do that. But for the purpose of getting this passed, I'll vote on it to get it through. But if we had 5 people here,
And I'm not
and
aware
I
of
would
any
not be.
conflict, and neither are you, and so that's fine.
Right, can you repeat that again?
Said I'm not aware of any conflict, and neither are you.
I
and
don't
so-
own the company, so
Right.
we're good to go. All right, roll call vote.
Counselor Driver?
Abstain.
Counselor Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Counselor McClinton?
Aye.
Counselor Murphy?
Aye. All right, now we're into our first reading. Will not be any votes taken on that, but reading. Resolution 84-8125.
Yes, and these next 4 are all weed lien first reading, so I can
First
take
reading,
those
read
all at
lien,
once.
18 through 21.
21.
Okay,
Yes.
Mac?
So, Resolution 84-8125 authorizes abatement of a weed or other vegetation nuisance at 2125 Tyler Lane, Hoover, Alabama. A public hearing for all of these will be held on July 14th, 2025. Resolution 84-8225 authorizes the abatement of a weed or other vegetation nuisance at 2152 Larchmont Circle, Hoover, Alabama. Public hearing on July 14th, 2025. Resolution 848325 authorizes the abatement of a weed or vegetation nuisance at 2337 Tyler Road, Hoover, Alabama, with a public hearing on July 14th, 2025. And Resolution 848425 authorizes abatement of a weed or other vegetation nuisance at 2882 Wisteria Drive, Hoover, Alabama, with a public hearing on July 14th, 2025.
All right. We'll have number 22, that's not a, you want to go ahead and read 22 as well, too, as first reading, although it's
Yes.
not a.
First
nuisance.
reading, item number 22 is
Okay.
resolution number 848525, which grants conditional use approval for the operation of an indoor golf facility for the property located at 2815 Greystone Commercial Boulevard, Hoover, Alabama, with the conditions shown on Exhibit 2 to the resolution. A public hearing will be held on July 14th,
All right.
2025.
That's it. Mac, you want to get some commentary?
Just that for each of the abatement cases, as customary, we will check those immediately before the public hearing, and we'll have pictures and an update for you. And the final one, the conditional use, 2815 Greystone Commercial Boulevard, that is for an entertainment venue, and the conditions should be attached to the ordinance. There are a total of 10 that were reported to the City Council from the Planning Commission.
All right. Okay, within the agenda, any comments for the council? All right. What about the public? Chief?
Thank you. As many of you know, I will be qualifying tomorrow afternoon to run for the office of mayor of Hoover. State law requires me to take a leave vacation once I qualify until the election is certified in August. I will be naming Norman McDuffey, our assistant chief, as the acting chief effective tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I've been honored to serve the citizens of Hoover the last 40-plus years as a police officer and the last 20 and a half as a police chief. I've been blessed to have the opportunity to work with the men and women, and really the finest group of men and women that wear a uniform, and really just blessed to have been part of it. Like I say all the time, nobody does it like we do. I'd also like to say that I've been proud to serve with the other city employees, and I really think that's the reason we have this great city is because of what the employees have done the years that I've been here. I appreciate the opportunities that I've been given, and I'll say goodbye tonight, and I'll see you guys in about 2 months. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Chief Derzis, for the purpose of the public meeting, would you like to ask Duffy to come up here so we can see his face?
Come on up. I'm leaving it in capable hands. No wardrobe, no.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm a little caught off guard by this, but I appreciate very much the leadership and assistance and support that the council has given us my 24 years here. It's certainly not as long as Chief has been here, but very fortunate, as he said, to work with a group of employees that we do, have the support of the government that we do, and we will continue on for the next 2 months doing the Hoover way and the things that we do.
Well, I can tell you this, you've done probably just about every job for the police department, even directing traffic at Hunter Street on Sundays.
I've done it a time or two. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. All right. No
Mr.
further
President.
comments?
I got one comment.
sir.
Chief Derzis, thank you very much for everything you've done for this city. Great leadership. You do it with, you definitely do it with style, that's for sure. And I'm sure you're going to enjoy your vacation. So see you soon.
All right. All right. If no further questions, we shall adjourn this meeting.